There's a simple but often overlooked premise, and that is new growth comes from new thinking. New growth comes from new thinking. Expecting new growth for your business or in your personal life without new ways of thinking is like a farmer expecting new crops to grow without first planting the seeds. These 3 A's will stick with you: acumen, allocation, action. Acumen, what's the new idea? What's your new learning? If you're constantly in meetings or teleconferences where there's no new learnings, you're wasting your time. Stop. Allocation, what are you going to stop doing? What does your not to-do list look like? Great strategies is much about what you choose not to do as it is about what you choose to do. How many of you in your company have some type of written strategic plan? Some type of written plan. How many folks, just a show of hands, how many folks have a written plan of some type? Okay, maybe about a third or so. Okay, so for those of you who have a plan, if that plan could talk, what would it say? Would it say this? Hi, remember me? I'm your strategic plan. You don't call, you don't write, what am I supposed to think? Oh sure, at the end of last year, we were hot and heavy. We took that 2-day getaway to the strategic planning offsite and you showered me with time and attention. You told me how much I meant to you and said we'd always be together. You even brought me to the annual kickoff meeting and proudly presented me to everyone. Then a few weeks passed and I noticed you paying less attention to me and more attention to that slinky young thing you call iPad. After a few months, I didn't see or hear from you at all. I just sat on this shelf dressed in this red faux leather 3-ring binder collecting dust. Now it's time to start planning for next year, and all of a sudden, you're back wanting more? Well, I'm sorry. I'm just not that type of strategic plan. Now, any resemblance to the previous scene is completely unintentional, but highly likely. Let's face it, most people simply don't use their strategic plan to drive daily activities. And if you're not using your plan to drive daily activities, you may as well not have one at all. One of the things that happens is we tend to get into a rut in how we spend our time at work and at home. We get into that rut. We're doing things the same way as everybody else, just kind of going along. But one of the things to keep in mind is that the definition of excellence is deviation from the norm. Excellence is deviation from the norm. If you're doing the same normal things in the same normal ways as everybody else, guess what? We're not going to be reaching that level of excellence. Are you recording your best ideas? Is your team recording their best ideas? And are you sharing those with one another on a regular basis? If not, we're potentially missing a great opportunity because the great leaders don't have all the answers. But the great leaders are able to harness or to bring in their people's best thinking on a regular basis. Great strategy should be simple. Maybe as simple as my daughter Jessie, her favorite Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and Ham. And if Dr. Seuss was a strategist, I think he might have written something along the lines of, I am strategic, strategic I am. Do you like to think strategically? I do not like to think strategically, not in an office, not in a tree. It's more fun to think tactically, stuff I can touch, stuff I can see. I do not like to think strategically. I haven't the time to be so leisurely. Setting good plans I'll leave to others. Got to check my iPhone even in bed under the covers. No, I do not like to think strategically. I prefer the adrenaline rush of mindless reactivity. Goals and objectives are what you're trying to achieve. Strategy and tactics are how you're going to get there. The goal is what generally you're trying to achieve. So let's take a real world example. The goal might be to reach the peak of the mountain. That's what I'm generally trying to achieve. That's my goal. The objective then is more specific. So the objective might be to ascend 2,000 feet each day for 5 days till we get to the 10,000 foot summit. Okay? That's what we're trying to achieve. The objective, more specific. Strategy is how we're going to get there. How we're going to get there. How often are you taking things off of your plate? Are you stopping things so that you can focus and not be spread too thin trying to do too many things? If you work inside the company in operations, HR, IT, you also have to say no. And the reality is, we're not comfortable doing that. But when you get in a request for you or your people to do something that's not really what you should be doing or doesn't help you and your team achieve your goals, you are not being strategic. We're being a yes person, we're being an order taker, and we might as well go down to McDonald's and work that drive-through, because that's not being strategic. One of the big issues I see is people confusing strategy and tactics. And we generally like to go to tactics first because we can see them, we can touch them. If your people are having trouble with the difference between strategy and tactics, you can use what I call the rule of touch. The rule of touch, which means if you can reach out and physically touch it, it's going to be a tactic. We need to remember strategy and tactics came from the military arena thousands of years ago, and Sun Tzu, who was a Chinese general and philosopher, he wrote the book The Art of War. Even that far back, he said, all the men can see the tactics I used to conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which great victory has evolved. It reminded me of those outlandish commercials back from the 1980s with people like used car dealer Crazy Eddie yelling, "Everything must go." Do you remember those? Anybody remember those commercials? People? I think in the often somber and stuffy world of strategy, somebody like Crazy Eddie might just be able to break through and help us identify our most difficult strategy challenges. Here's how. Howdy folks, Crazy Eddie here from Crazy Eddie's Strategy Superstore, where absolutely everything must go. We've got the strategies you need to build sustainable competitive advantage, but these strategies won't last long. For just $99.95, you can be the product leader in your market for the next 3 years for no money down. That's right, no money down, but that's not all. Lousy strategy execution got you down? Employees not buying into your strategy? Well, worry no more. For just $59.95, Crazy Eddie can fix you up with a 2-page blueprint of your business to communicate strategy throughout the organization. And finally, for one day only, Sunday, you can trade in your manager's short-term view of the business for a strategic perspective that fuels organic growth for just $39.95. So come on down to Crazy Eddie's Strategy Superstore, where the only thing crazier than me is running your business without the guarantee of good strategy. If one of the reasons that you're not fond or happy with your strategic plan, as many people are not, it's generally because we do the plan and we don't do any new thinking that goes into the plan. There's no new ideas. There's no new insights. And if we don't spend time to have those new ideas and those new insights, then we're following that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Great strategy is the power to go from where you are today to where you want to go. The power to live strategically. You all have that power. The question is, will you choose to use it?